Hello, everyone. My name is Ferran. I'm currently affiliated with the gamification group at Tampere University in Finland and with the Escola Universitaria ERAM at the University of Girona in Catalonia. But I'm making this video to present a paper that I co-authored a couple of years ago while I was still a PhD candidate at UC Santa Cruz within the Social Emotional Technology Lab. And I'm therefore speaking on behalf of my colleagues and supervisor there, but also on behalf of a couple of colleagues from the Digital Wellbeing Group at Google with whom we collaborated on this project. Anyhow, the paper I'm presenting today proposes a novel method for co-designing remotely, which we call designerly Tele-Experiences. Our method seeks to facilitate co-design processes where facilitators and a group of co-design participants interact remotely in ways that nonetheless try to put great emphasis on synchronous communication, situated thinking, and experience-driven ideation. The development of this method was mainly motivated by a struggle that we faced in our own co-design work. Remember 2020 when all of us were suddenly brought to a massive lockdown? Well, at that time, my colleagues and I were knee-deep in a study on how to co-design technology for playful eating. We had just finished a round of contextual research, and we were about to conduct a series of co-design workshops to invite diverse stakeholders to come together, play with food, and co-imagine how technology may add value in those playful eating engagements. But go figure, COVID happened and all of our plans collapsed, and so we had to react. And the thing is, we were quite committed to keeping our process as participatory and situated as possible. But then how could we do that if we couldn't meet with people and come together in playful, co-creative ways? We considered using Miro to facilitate online co-design sessions, but we quickly discarded that for its lack of tangibility and situatedness. We also reviewed existing situated co-design methods, but we couldn't really find one that addressed all the challenges that we were facing at once on its own and without modification. You can read about our review of those methods in the paper. And so seeing that there wasn't a well-established, straightforward way of tackling a rather unforeseen case, we decided to use our struggle as an opportunity for methodological experimentation. And we started by synthesizing our learnings from the contextual research phase of the project and using them to brainstorm design directions. We did that internally among the research team, and that allowed us to produce a first set of exploratory ideas, which we compiled into a catalog of speculative designs. Importantly, those were clearly early and half-baked ideas. They reflected the findings from our research, but did so in ways that were clearly incomplete and on occasion even flawed. I will not go through the ideas in much detail. You can check them out in the paper if you want, but let me share one of them as a reference. Placemap is a tablecloth that displays a world map, highlights part of the map, and then sends playful food traditions from those locations to participants' phones. That way, people can learn about other food cultures in a way that's both hands-on, embodied, and playful. So our aim with the catalog was not to produce polished ideas that could be readily implemented or evaluated in a traditional sense. Rather, we wanted to use those ideas as provocative starting points for further ideation, as hooks that allowed us to engage stakeholders in a co-creative dialogue that was grounded in a rich, situated experience rather than on purely rational thinking. To achieve that, we circulated our catalog online using social media primarily, and then we invited people to have a look at it. To our advantage, those were pretty boring times with people locked at home with not much to do. So a bunch of people were quite happy that we provided some distraction. Those who reached out were invited to a follow-up co-design session with us. We just asked them to gather one or more other people, essentially whomever they would be at home with at that point, and video call us during a mealtime of their choice. And so taking the catalog as a provocative point of departure, we shared a number of meals with different groups of co-located people. We were remote, but they were together in a shared space, and we leveraged that scenario as follows. The co-design session started with a meal, where participants would choose an idea from our catalog that they would like to experience while eating. Our role in that part of the session was to disappear behind the curtains and use any means at hand to enact the idea chosen by participants. We were inspired by Wizard of Oz techniques, and we tried to provide participants with the illusion that they were using the technology they had chosen. For example, to prototype Placemap, the smart tablecloth that I talked about before, we did not build an actual technological tablecloth. Instead, we shared our computer screen displaying Google Maps to indicate the transitions between the different countries, and then we used WhatsApp to send prompts with geolocated playful food traditions to participants' phones. As you can see, that's a pretty lo-fi prototype that was meant to allow us to improvisationally enact the ideas while still delivering a somewhat rich experience to the participants. And so all the co-design sessions started with such kind of rich, highly embodied and situated experiencing of an idea from our catalog. When the meal was over, we stopped enacting the prototypes and then returned to our facilitator roles. Building on their fresh experience of our impromptu prototype, we provoked participants to comment on our idea, to rethink it as much as they wanted, or to come up with a completely new idea altogether if that's what they wanted. I want to stress that that part of the session was not meant as an evaluation of our ideas. We simply used those early ideas as provocative, highly experiential starting points to further ideate. And even though we learned a lot about people's perceptions of our catalog, we also created new ideas in directions that we couldn't have imagined before. And I could talk about this process long and super deep, but in the interest of time, I'll invite you to read the paper if you want to learn more about it. But anyway, the thing is that throughout our experimental co-design encounters, we took reflexive notes of our own experiences and observations. We did that to engage in a sort of ongoing meaning-making process of our process itself, following the spirit of reflexive thematic analysis. And as a result, we could distill our experimental remote co-design process into the methodological proposal of designer-led Tele-Experiences, which we frame as a novel method for facilitating remote co-design sessions where participants experience early design ideas as provocations that help them to familiarize with a targeted design space and contribute novel design ideas. In the paper, we share our reflections from developing and experimenting with designer-led Tele-Experiences. And because I don't have much time in this video, I invite you to read them because they will provide you with insights in both what might be the value of this method, but also how to implement it in practice. But before I end, as a summary, let me reiterate a very synthetic outline of how designer-led Tele-Experiences work in practice. They involve 5 steps. The first thing you do is some contextual research to find foundational design qualities that you want to explore with stakeholders. Building on that, you produce a set of speculative ideas that embody a breadth of those qualities. And at this stage, ideas should not be precise or complete. They should be deliberately diverse, ambiguous, and unresolved, so people can engage with the design directions they feel most interesting and reappropriate them creatively. Using those ideas, you can make a catalog that gets people excited and helps them to relate to the targeted design space. The catalog should be plain and simple, even commercially looking, and far from technical or academically rigorous. The goal here really is to help people to emotionally connect with the design ideas and project how they may play out in their own lives. Building on the catalog, you also need to prepare to enact the prototypes of the ideas during the co-design sessions. We have several insights on how to do that, and I highly recommend you to read the paper if you're interested. Once the catalog and prototypes are ready, it's time to reach out to stakeholders. And this is a very important part of the process, as getting people excited about the work will enrich their participation. We found social media to be a useful channel for doing this, but you should choose any channel you feel is appropriate in the context of your project, really. Once stakeholders show interest in seeing the full catalog, you will benefit from not simply sharing it with them. We suggest that you may also want to invite them to a one-on-one video call where you can make the connection more personal. In our project, that helped to make participants more excited and comfortable with participating in the follow-up co-design session. And finally, the last phase of designer-led Tele-Experiences is the actual co-design session, an approximately 2-hour video call where you will first allow participants to experience the technology idea of their choice, and then you build on that rich, fresh, lived experience to ideate further with them. This is a pretty general overview of how designer-led Tele-Experiences work, and there are obviously a bunch of details that I couldn't cover in this video. So I encourage you to read the paper if you feel this may be useful for you. But before I finish, I want to say that this process that I've been talking about was obviously helpful in a lockdown scenario, but we think it may also be useful beyond. For example, to enable rapid and cost-effective co-design processes, engaging communities from diverse parts of the world, which is something that would otherwise be impossible or at least super resource intensive. In the paper, we'll reflect on that potential as well as on the limitations of the method and how they should be addressed. But anyhow, I hope that this video gives you the incentive to read the paper and to use our method. And I really look forward to talking about it if you have questions. So please do reach out. Thank you.